Welcome back, everybody. This is Reading Asteroid. We're back with part 3 of the video. This is We Made Up a Ghost and We Think It's Killing Us. It's technically part 5 and 6 on Reddit, but it's part 3 of our video. So, hope everybody's having a good day today.
Yeah, I hope everyone's having a good day. So, the person that made this post is Verastahl. I can still never say his name right.
Verastahl.
Thank you, sir. But he has made this. This is part 5 of 8, if I'm not mistaken. He does have his own YouTube channel. We'll put it in the link down below, where he's actually started to read his own stuff. And he was pretty active in the Reddit of No Sleep. So he has a bunch of stories on his website and on Reddit. So please go give him some love.
Yeah, shout out to him putting out great content.
All right, so basically we left off where Alex is about to go potentially talk to his mother.
Yeah, try and figure out what's going on.
Because, apparently they haven't talked in a while, so we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, doesn't remember anything, apparently. I don't remember much from when I was 15, but I remember the ride to my Aunt Judy's house down in Tennessee. It was just me and my mother in the car. Air conditioner was the only noise for a several-hour drive. Though it wasn't the only reason for the chill in the air, I remember knowing that my mother hated me and being terribly sad about the fact, especially because I deserved it. That's the fucked up thing. I remember feeling that I'd earned everything I was getting somehow, but I didn't know why. Till the last few days, I've been sleepwalking through a life built on obscured past without even questioning what would cause me not to remember something so important. But I've woken up now, at least a little. Everyday bits of memory are coming back to me, but only about those things I've been told, as though someone has to point out objects in a shadowed room for me to notice that they're there. I had decided I would talk to Mills on the phone and get more details of what went on before visiting my mother. The idea was that I'd be better armed with knowledge, and to be honest, I wanted to be able to learn enough to talk myself into abandoning the idea and of contacting my mother at all. The last time I spoke to her was over the phone on my 18th birthday, and it was not a long or heartwarming conversation. It ended with her saying she hoped she'd never hear from me again, and I've lived up to that hope for over a decade.
But despite repeated calls and texts, I haven't been able to get Mills yet. Though I keep trying on the road to Elcid, Ohio, hearing Mills' voicemail always makes my heart jump slightly. Though increasingly it was from fear rather than excitement or joy. I didn't want to panic, and I already booked a flight for Austin from the Cleveland airport for late tonight. But it was still hard to keep my mind on what I was doing while worrying about her. In some ways it was a blessing, because I arrived at my mom's house before I realized it. I had never seen it before, only knowing where she lived thanks to my aunt, who kept hoping we would reconcile someday and would periodically slip me unsolicited updates on how my mom was faring and what she was up to. It's not that I didn't care. I cared a lot. It was just that reminders of her were also reminders of a lot of pain and loss. I had always been closer to my father growing up, and when he died suddenly when I was 15, it sent both me and my mother into a tailspin. I froze as I realized something. I didn't remember how my father died. I didn't remember anything other than he's dead. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Alex does have some problems, to be honest, and I have a feeling this has something to do with Alex. Alex has harbored some emotions and created a monster.
Yeah, whatever happened, he has shut off that particular memory in his mind. He has literally that memory is in a tight box with a lock on it, and I think he finally realized that there's a box like that.
Yeah,
he's starting to poke it with a stick, and
it's like the perfect villain arc. You're gonna end up finding out he's powerful, more powerful than he realizes, just because of something to do with his dad. I don't know if he might have accidentally killed his dad or something, or I don't know.
But do you theoretically think that he would kill his dad at 15?
Not on purpose. But if you have
his friends or the monster or whatever,
not on
willingly do it
purpose, you don't realize what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Just the power within starts thinking stuff, realizes eventually, hey, every time I think bad on this person, something bad happens. But they don't, you don't realize it at first. Can't control it, don't have the control of it. Type deal.
True.
So, but
Maybe.
Maybe. The terror and anger of realizing how profound my memory gaps truly were drove me from the car and up the front door of the house. It was a small but nice house in a pleasant neighborhood, and I tried to knock as demurely as I could, both for the neighbor's sake and for my mother's. Still, I knew it'd probably look wild-eyed when she opened the door. Hi, hello, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't call or warn you, but I was afraid you wouldn't see me if you knew I was coming. I smiled weakly, my stomach churning in knots. I was afraid if I stopped talking, she would just slam the door in my face, which might still happen anyways. I just really need to talk to you for a few minutes. I won't stay long, and I won't ever bother you again if you won't. Can I please come in and talk to you for a few minutes? It's very important. I could hear my voice shaking, and I hated it, but it couldn't be helped. For her part, my mother's initial look of surprise had slowly slid down into a look of suspicious anger. Are you on drugs? Is that what it is? Her voice was dry and hoarse sounding now, and I wondered if she had started smoking again. She had stopped when I was little when something happened. Fuck. I hear on TV about junkie kids coming to kill their parents. She raised a thinly penciled eyebrow. I think you've done enough killing already.
I clenched my teeth, my anger and frustration burning away my guilt and fear for the moment, as I took a step forward and jabbed a finger at her face. There, right fucking there. I'm so sick of this, all of this. People are either treating me like I'm a piece of glass or they're shitting on me for something I don't remember. No, fuck that. I realized I had made it 5 steps into the house, my mother retreating from my angry tirade. Taking a deep breath, I started over. Look, I'm sorry. I know you don't want me here. I don't want to be here. But I need answers for the things I don't remember. I'm not on drugs, and I'm not gonna hurt you. I just need your help. My mother looked at me, her lips pressed into a thin line.
I don't have any money to give you.
I rolled my eyes. I don't need money. I just need help remembering things. Studying me carefully, she narrowed her gaze again.
What kind of things?
I had been mostly looking down at the floor since entering, but now I met her eyes again. Like, why you hate me for one. I don't remember why or what happened when I was 15.
I saw her eyes begin watering, and at first I thought it was sadness at how far apart we had drifted or regret for sending me away. Then I realized it was raw hurt and anger.
Get out. I won't hear any more of your bullshit in my own shitting house.
She was screaming like a madwoman now, her eyes wide and her face red as she advanced on me.
That was always your problem. You'd never admit to what you've done. Never admit to killing them or letting them get killed, whichever it was.
I stood my ground. They? Who is they? Who did I kill or let get killed? She reached at me now, beating upon my chest with her small thin hands.
Damn you, Alex. What is wrong with you? Are you telling me you don't remember? Are you still going to play this game after all this time?
I gently grabbed her wrists and held them still for a minute. Mom, Cassidy and Ellis are dead. They've been murdered because of something we all were doing as kids. And if I don't figure it out, what is going on, it may happen to the rest of us too. I sighed. Fuck. It might even if I do figure it out. I let go of her wrist and stepped back. I'm not playing games. I really don't remember. I never could. I can't explain it. But it's only since I've been talking to the others the last few days that I've started to remember any of it. So I'm going to ask you one last time to please talk to me for a minute. Explain to me what went on. Then I'll go away forever. My mother wiped at her eyes, and I could see her fingers yellowed with age and cigarette tar. I realized I'd smelled alcohol on her breath when she was close by as well. She was looking at me like a wounded animal, and I hated myself for making it all worse by being here. And if she wasn't going to?
I don't know everything. I don't know much really, but I can tell you what I can, and then you have to go. You were always so close with your friends. When you were younger, I was happy for you. I know how hard childhood can be, and to have so many close friends can be a blessing. But as you got older and moved to that damned school, things started changing. You were more quiet, and you barely talked to us about what was going on with you anymore. At first, I chalked it up to adolescence. You were a growing boy, and I knew from my brothers growing up that a teenage boy can be hard to be around. And you weren't mean or getting into trouble, you were just not there. You were gone a lot of the time, and when you were home, you could tell your mind was off somewhere else. When strange things started happening around the school and the town, we didn't pay it much mind. Your father liked to joke about the teacher ghosts, and we really thought that's all it was, a silly joke or a myth. But then we almost had a car accident that one time, and you might remember it, but it was almost really bad, and the way it didn't happen was so strange. I should have known something wasn't right. Maybe I could have helped you, got you away from those kids at school. Still, people are blind to things so much, right? So time passed, and I heard things happening, but I guess I ignored it or thought it was just talk. The one night you came in and said that Alicia was gone, that she had been taken by the thing at the school. I didn't know what you were talking about, but you were all torn up and terrified, so
Who's Alicia? I felt as though my head was being torn apart, and as I spoke, each word echoed across my brain like a monstrous bell being rung. I saw my mom wanting to grow angry again, but she wrestled it back down when she saw how much pain I was in.
My God, you really don't know. I think you really forgot her.
Well, we had still been standing at the edge of her living room while we talked, and she moved now to her mantle to retrieve a picture frame. In it was a photo of me about the age of 12, along with my parents and a young girl that looked to be about 8. My mom held that picture in front of my face, tapping the girl with a long yellow nail.
That's Alicia. That's your sister.
She dropped her arm and staggered back, her face looking impossibly old and tired.
That's half of why I couldn't be around you anymore. I could never believe that you really forgot her. How do you forget a person? Especially her. She was so sweet and good, and she loved you so much.
She was crying freely now, and I wanted to comfort her, but didn't quite dare.
We all loved each other so much, but then you got caught up in whatever was going on in school.
Her face was harder now, tears sliding down her cheek like water on granite.
I don't know what you got tangled up in, whether it was some kind of cult or if there really was some ghost or something at that school. All I know is that when you came in all scared and bloody, your father went to bring our baby girl back. I tried to get you to stay with me, but you ran out after he left. I called the police, but they were already out there. 7 people died that night. They never found my baby girl, but they found your father's body in the gymnasium, or parts of it at least.
Her eyes were dry and blazing again.
And you, I was so scared of you. Even when I knew you must have had some hand in her being at the school so late in the evening, especially when you were the one that knew where she was. When we found you and your friends out in the football field later that night all unconscious, I was so relieved, but both because you were safe and because maybe you had answers. Maybe you could help us find your father and Alicia.
Her tone grew more wooden as she talked, and her eyes had wandered to the picture in her hands. She stroked it aimlessly as she went on.
But then they found your father around the time the EMTs were checking you kids out. They said you were scraped up but otherwise fine. Rescue crews were still searching the school, but I took you to the car and I asked you what happened, where you had seen Alicia last.
Her grip tightened on the frame until I heard it crack.
And you know what you said to me?
Who's Alicia? I finished with her, remembering it as I was being told. I still didn't know what had led up to the moment, but I remember my mom that night, so sad and scared, staring at me with her mouth open for several moments, asking me again and again, shaking my shoulders, and then she slapped me across the face. I could see she was remembering that too.
I know it seems like I've treated you bad, Alex, and I guess I have, but just like you couldn't help what you remembered, I couldn't help how that made me feel. I tried getting investigators, psychologists, even a preacher to talk to you. Try to help you remember or quit lying if you weren't being honest about what you knew. But nothing helped. And every day, I felt like you were slowly killing your sister by either being intentionally evil or just stupid and weak enough to block out the most important thing you could never ever know.
She wiped her nose as she shook her head.
I'm sorry, but I'm done. I've spent years trying to forget all this, to forget you. I'm sorry you're in trouble now, especially if it's not your fault, but I can't be around you anymore. I don't hate you, Alex, but I don't love you either. Not anymore.
I left my mother's house and drove to a nearby parking lot where I just cried for a few minutes. I think part of me had always thought we would reconcile, and the loss of that hope coupled with memories of my baby sister flooding back as I tried to cope with losing her too. It was more than I could handle at first. I didn't know how much I was to blame for what had happened to her and my father, but that didn't lessen my grief or my guilt. After a while, I cracked my phone, no word from Mills, and 2 hours until my flight. I decided to try her again, and this time she picked up right away, except it wasn't her, it was Thomas.
Hey Alex, Mills can't come to the phone right now, mainly because I have her tied up in the other room. Been trying to get the professor to sit on her chest, which, fuck me, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter, we need you, buddy. I think it'll work if you're here.
I was momentarily confused, trying to decide if he could potentially be joking or something, but that made no sense. He wouldn't go all the way to Austin for a joke, and his voice sounded strange, like he was caught between laughing and crying, or just in the middle of going insane. Look, you're right. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll come and we'll figure it out. Is she okay? Have you hurt her? Thomas gave an uneven laugh.
No, but she broke my arm, but she's fine. Not trying to hurt either of you, but I need you to both to contact the professor, ask for its help.
Help?
With Cassidy, with bringing her back to life.
Oh shit. That's the end of part 6. On to part 7. Or on to part 6.
Yeah,
that was the end of part 5. I read 6 at the bottom of the fucking page, Billy. Oh my god. That's the end of part 5. On to part 6. Baby,
let's do it. I should be a detective.
Why?
I told you, he had something to do with his father's death. I didn't know. The sibling was a curveball. I had a feeling about it. I just didn't want to say it and sound stupid. But your boy.
Pretty on it today, bro. Well, actually, I think if you go back to episode 1, you called what is happening currently.
I do this. I don't know how, but I do this. I do it to movies all the time. People do not watch movies with me.
My Christy, my wife, will fucking go up the wall.
My wife, absolutely not. Anytime it comes to like something where we're trying to figure something out, it'll be like 30 minutes in. I'm like, this person did it. They the bad one.
Oh, like a murder mystery?
It's just anything, dude. Like, it could be anything.
I'm pretty good at the murder mystery ones. I like those. Those are fun.
Yeah. My other secret hidden talent, which is weird as hell, but like, we'll be watching TV, and she'll be like, that motherfucker's tall as hell. How tall do you think he is? I'll be like 6'4". And then she looks it up, and the motherfucker's like 6'4", 6'5". Every time. Yeah, every time, dude. Every time.
I think my superpower is when I'm watching a movie, I've watched so much shit to the point where I can know who the actor is and I know where I've seen them from.
Yeah,
it's weird.
You're like an IBDM or whatever it is. Shit.
Yes. And my wife gets so mad because I'll be sitting there and be like, "Oh man, that's the guy from. Do you know what that movie's from?" And I'll start rattling off, and she's like, "Dwayne, I don't know what you're fucking talking about, dude."
Me and my wife do the same. We both do it to each other. Yeah, we'll spot somebody like, you know where they're from? Do you know who that is?
I can give you like the actor's name, like their real name, and then like where I've watched them from. I love it, dude.
I'm just gonna do
all right, you ready for part 6, my dude?
6.
Thomas, you need to stop this. I know you're upset, out of your mind with grief even, But this isn't the answer. I had spent a hellish 5 hours since my brief surprise phone call with Thomas, waiting at the airport, waiting on the plane, waiting for a rental car, and then driving as fast as I could to get to Mills' house outside of Austin. I didn't think he would hurt her, but I hadn't thought he would tie her up either. When I knocked on her door, he answered right away. And though I could tell he had been crying, he looked oddly happy to see my face. He actually went to give me a hug before seeming to absently remember he had a small revolver in his hand. With an embarrassed shrug, he gestured with the gun for me to come in. When I first entered the house, I moved past Thomas and started calling for Mills. She yelled back, and I found her laying on the floor in her room, her ankles and wrists tied with thin yellow rope. I had untied her right away, knowing he was at my back with a gun, but not caring. Once I knew she was okay, I hugged her and turned to look at Thomas, who asked us to come sit on the sofa in the living room. It was there that I started trying to talk him back from the edge that he was teetering on. But looking at my friend, his eyes weighed down with a hard gaze of insanity. My heart sank as I realized I wasn't going to be able to reason with him.
No, Alex, you're wrong. I've thought it all out. We've created this thing right, and it's powerful, able to do all kinds of things. It's magic. So what's to stop it from helping us out with Cassidy?
How about the fact that it just fucking killed her last week?
Mills snarled at him, the anger and fear in her voice scaring me more than Thomas. I needed to get her out of here. At least she'd be safe, and maybe I could calm him down alone. But Thomas didn't seem angry. He was nodding and smiling as though being patient with children who just didn't understand.
I see your point and why you think that, but the last few nights I've been having dreams, or really the same dream repeatedly. At first I thought it was just stress or grief, but when it happened the third time, well, I realized it had to be the professor. It was sending me a message, telling me about what it could do.
Mills gave him a warning look.
Thomas, stop it.
Looking at me, her eyes worried, she said,
Do you remember a girl named Alicia?
I had been holding her hand and I gave her a squeeze now. Yeah, I do now. I came from my mother's. It didn't go well. But she told me about my little sister. I have spent the last few hours remembering more and more of her since. I felt myself getting choked up again and pushing it down. Looking back to Thomas, I loved Mills for being worried for me, but I was tired of being protected. So what did you see in the dream that makes you think the professor will help? What doesn't Mills want you to tell me? Thomas smiled wide, his eyes glittering in their sunken hollows. He looked 10 years older than even after Cassidy's funeral. And I wondered for a moment when he had last gotten restful sleep. His voice and his movement had a disquieting jerkness to them, like a corpse dancing to an electric current. I stifled a shiver at the thought as I tried to listen.
And then I was floating in the old gym at Stonebrook, floating past the floor down into the old pool. You don't remember when we were down at the pool, do you, Alex? Well, that's all right, but I was down there, and I could feel old Professor down there with me too. But I wasn't scared. I was happy. It was like seeing an old friend, except I couldn't really see him too well, of course. And he kept looking like different things. But then I heard something moving around in the shadows of the pool, sloshing around in that smelly water down there in the dark. It was funny. I could see down there, but I couldn't see either. Nothing, not everything. It wasn't until it started floating out to the middle of the pool that I saw clearly what it was. It was Alicia, all grown up, or at least a lot bigger than when we lost her. And she was alive. I don't know how, but she was alive down there in the dark. I saw her look at me, and, well, she kind of just smiled, I think. Just think, Alex, if it could keep her alive all this time, it could bring Cassidy back. I felt like that's what it's telling me.
He stopped talking suddenly, staring at me as though he expected his words to have answered any questions and solved any conflicts. That's fucking crazy, Tom. It's impossible. I stood up, and he raised his gun half-heartedly, but I ignored it. If it was the professor contacting you and not just a dream, it wasn't trying to help you. It was trying to trick you. It killed Ellis. Did you know that? It fucking crushed him against the ceiling of a parking garage like a goddamn cockroach. That's your buddy, the professor. That's the thing you're siding with over your fucking best friends. I was standing over him now, and his lips were quivering as tears began to fill his eyes. I heard Mills start softly crying behind me at the news of Ellis, but I kept my gaze on Thomas for the moment as he struggled to speak.
We just need to try, okay? Get the professor to sit on our chest, any of us. Talk to it even. Even if I'm wrong or crazy, we need to try to talk to it, right? Find out why it's killing us.
I reached down and snatched the gun away from him without resistance. I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Sitting on her chest? I cast my gaze back to Mills, who had a haunted look on her tear-stricken face. Do you know? She nodded softly.
I do, yeah. But I think it's a bad idea. If it would even work now.
Thomas looked past me at her.
It would. It would with him here. Alex was always his favorite.
I went to rub my face and realized I was still holding the gun. Frowning disgustingly, I emptied it into the floor and sat the gun down on the coffee table before stepping back to face both of them. Look, I want to know the rest of what's going on. Mills, I think you should leave, or me and Thomas can. He can catch me up on his own. She was already shaking her head.
No, I'm not leaving you. No offense, Thomas, but I don't trust you for shit at the moment. And you're too upset to tell him everything anyways.
Thomas was crying softly now, his head buried in one of his hands.
I know you're right. I'm fucked up. Please tell him. Maybe he'll understand if we tell him the rest.
He looked up briefly, his eyes red.
I'm really sorry. I'd never hurt you guys. I'm just fucking scared and alone.
I squatted down next to his chair and gave him a brief hug. We're all scared, man, but you're not alone. Let her tell me the rest and we'll figure something out, okay? He nodded and I stood up again, moving to sit with Mills again. She was still almost painfully beautiful, even scared and exhausted and terribly sad. Her face shone with this inner light that touched the core of me. Watching her trying to find the right words, working to find the least painful path through making me relive the worst things that ever happened to us. I knew then that I was still in love with her, would always be in love with her, and only her. It was a strange time to have such a happy revelation, but I held into the warmth of it as I waited for her to begin. By the end of 8th grade, the Stonebrook Six pretty much ran the middle school. We didn't bully anyone, but the strange combination of fear and mystery surrounding us was a powerful brew. We were popular without trying, at least on the surface level. And that's all that really mattered, because as always, we really only wanted to hang out with each other anyway. When we got to 9th grade, things were different at first. Despite sharing the same main building and campus, there was a fairly sharp social divide between the two schools at Stonebrook. And we were now going from being the eldest middle schoolers to lonely freshmen. It meant older kids, different teachers, and more time having passed since the last tangible signs of the professor. People like to forget things that don't suit them. They use time and the elasticity of memory to sand off the round edges of the past. And those things that are too hard to be reshaped are stored away in the musty corners of their mind. The professor, as compelling as it was in some ways, was an uncomfortable thought. And like any uncomfortable thought, it spent quite some time walking in the knives edge of the townsfolk collective and individual consciousness. On the one side, the eventual oblivion of rationalization and explanation. On the other, the same neglect and dusty dims that befell childhood memories and unpleasant pasts. During most of our 9th grade year, I think the professor was teetering between those two kinds of death, and its balance on the blade grew weaker with each passing day. If we had only left it alone, it might have faded away for good that year. But we didn't. We didn't want the professor to die, and I think we could all sense it needed our help to survive. Without any plan or coordination, we all began talking about the professor again in our subterranean hideaway. I mean, we had always talked about it a little, even if just in a joke or passing reference. But by the spring of our freshman year, we were back to discussing it regularly. The breath of our words fanning the embers back to life. I was largely to blame. I had taken it upon myself to research on different myths and legends, specifically magical creatures that seem similar to our professor. If I could find any, that was how I wound up reading about tupas and telling all about them. Tupas, from what I remember, are supposed to be beings created by the mental or spiritual energies of one or more people, kind of like imaginary friends you make real by believing hard enough. It was a strange idea, but it seemed to fit the professor better than anything else based on what we knew about it.
Around the same time Ellis came up with the idea of trying to see the professor, we weren't even sure it was still around, and the idea of verifying its continued presence in some way was attractive to all of us. Ellis' idea led us to getting a large baby pool, sneaking it back into the room down in the secret lair. We filled it with a few inches of water and then began calling to the professor. The idea was this: the professor was always invisible, and the past attempts we had made to just ask it to show itself had gone unanswered, so either it couldn't become visible to us or it didn't want to. But if it was at least willing to come and visit us, and if it had some kind of physical form, we might be able to get some sense of its size or shape in the water. It was an odd idea, and Ellis admitted it was a long shot, but we figured it was worth trying, with the fun and challenge of sneaking the pool into the school almost worth the price of admission by itself. The funny thing was that it kind of worked. We set the pool up, asked the professor to come as we were stood around the water holding hands, and this time it came. We could all feel it there, and after a few seconds, Cassidy let out an excited gasp as the water began to slosh in the pool. As the liquid settled, you could see the voids in the water didn't go. It was hard to say for sure, but it looked as though the professor was standing on two invisible legs in the pool, except when it became 4 voids instead of 2. The one larger one, then 8 small ones. On and on we watched as the water would slosh and settle, every time around a different shape or configuration. Then it was gone. We all began talking excitedly, and at first we didn't really understand what we had just seen. Then I realized what it was. It was changing shape repeatedly as it stood in the water. Big, small, many legs, or none. It must have shifted between a dozen things in the span of a couple of minutes. We were excited about all of this, of course, but rather than satisfying our curiosity to know more about the professor, it just made us hungrier for the next step.
Alex, you were the one that came up with a way of communicating with it. One day when we were all skipping a school assembly together, you started telling us about a theory you had. You said that if we really had made the professor up, made it what it was, why couldn't we make up a way to talk to it? The idea caught on with all of us right away. We all talked about it for a couple weeks, figuring out and agreeing on the details, but by the end of the school year, we were ready to try it out. The end result was very simple, in part because making up rituals can be hard, and in part because I think we instinctually weeded out the elements that didn't work. I understand that's contrary to the base idea we were working from. In theory, any idea for the ritual should have worked as long as we believed in it enough. But that's just one example of why I don't think we had as much control of things as we thought we had at the time. At some point, the newest and latest member of the Stonebrook Six started guiding us. The ritual went like this. We sat cross-legged in a circle, knees touching, and one of us holding a lit candle. We repeated the phrase, "Professor, come and join us. Professor, come and talk to us." And with each repetition, the candle would be passed to the next person in a counterclockwise manner. If the candle flame turned green, it meant the professor was present and willing to talk to us. The flame change was important, we had decided, because we wanted definitive proof the professor came to talk. We were all excited to try it out, but when we went to do it for the first time, we were all laughing a little and making jokes. I remember thinking it was odd that that the year before, the idea of talking to the professor directly would have terrified me. But now I was somehow not only okay with it, but very concerned that we weren't taking it seriously enough for it to work. But I needn't have worried. The professor wanted to talk to us. And the candle hadn't made a full circle before the flame turned a bright, eerie green. You were holding it at the time, Alex, and suddenly the professor was on you. Having the professor speak through you is an odd sensation. You don't feel like it's inside you, but rather that it's sitting on top of you somehow. You feel an immense weight on your chest, and while it completely controls your voice and expressions when it's in you, it doesn't really feel like that most of the time. It's more like someone is sitting on your chest and blocking your face from everyone while drowning out what you're saying with their own words and emotion, which of course is where we came up with the name. Over the next few months, we talked to the professor several times, and it sat on each of our chests more than once. Most of those seemed like magical experiences at the time, as though we were talking to a miracle, which I guess in some ways we were. But the first and last time were terrifying. When you were holding the candle and the flame turned green for the first time, we were all shaken. I don't know that any of us really expected it to work. And even if it did, we had no way of knowing how the professor would try to communicate. We had actually brought down a small chalkboard and a Ouija board just in case it needed a way to talk to us. Instead, it used you.
Hello, children.
The professor's voice was always so strange. It would vary from moment to moment, much like its shape and head and pool. One word it might be high and squeaky, the next it might be a deep baritone or almost bestial growl. Odder still was that though we had heard its voice through your mouth, we also heard it in our head. There wasn't a voice at all really, but some kind of song. One that we could understand that was somehow the same as the words being spoken. We all looked around at each other and we heard the voice both inside and out. For a moment I wondered if we would all be too scared to speak when Ellis popped out with the first trembling question.
Are you the professor?
We might have been a short laugh echoed through the room, though it sounded more like a mixture of a crow's call and a woman's scream.
Yes, Ellis. I am the thing you call the professor.
Another glance passed between us all. Then Thomas was asking, "Are you a Tupa?" A brief pause, and then it answered.
Tupa is just a name, really. A label for a larger concept that goes beyond what the word describes. But to answer your question, no, I'm not a Tupa. Though they do exist.
"What are you then?" I asked, my concern growing. "Are you a demon?" Another call, screaming of a laugh. This one long enough that it began to get worried.
No, Mills, not a demon of any sort. What I am, well, there's no easy way to explain what I am, but I will try. This place, this world, is one of infinite number of such worlds. Alternate dimensions, you might call it. And by one way of thinking it, these infinite worlds sit at the center of a larger expanse of reality.
The professor turned his gaze, your gaze, to Cassidy.
You remember that time you and Alex had opened the baseball?
Cassidy nodded vehemently, her eyes wide.
Well, it's kind of like that. If these infinite worlds are the core, the next layer out of the seventh realms, I don't know everything, and I don't know all of the realms. Hell is one of them, and the Nightlands is another. There's the Incarnata, which is where your Tupas come from, Thomas. And there's the Void. That's where I come from.
Ellis leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "The Void? What is that? Are there others like you there?" The professor shook your head.
Oh, no. There's only one of me. And the Void is a place where nothing is something. It's a place of unthought of and undreamt of things. Some might call it a dead place, but that would be wrong, because dead is something, and the Void's only substance is nothingness. Personally, I think the Void is a place of endless potential.
It drew back your lips in a ghastly, fashy smile of a smile.
Look at me, for instance. I was floating in the void, dreaming lost dreams of an endless sleep, when I sensed something new. It was small and distant light. In that light, I could see Alex here, bored in a class and thinking about the school being haunted. In some ways, I was watching myself be born. Even though it burned and hurt me, I moved towards the light. Soon I sensed something else. I was hearing Thomas tell the story of a lovesick Professor Sewer Slide. I was hearing all of your wonderful stories, pulling myself along them like a lifeline until I pushed through the membrane into this world.
The professor let your lips go slack as his eyes took us all in.
When I said there was only one of me, I meant it, even in all the infinite versions of you and the school. Only this version had the right combination of ingredients to create me. I've seen worlds where all of you met and all are dead. I finally stopped looking at them because it saddened me so.
It paused for a moment, so I took the opportunity to ask another question. Why does it make you sad? It didn't use your expressions this time, but its strange voice sounded hurt, as though I should know without having to ask.
Because I hate to see any of you suffer. In many ways, the 5 of you are my parents, as much as you are my friends, and I love you all.
I swallowed and was going to ask something else when Cassidy jumped in.
We love you too, Professor.
Another ghastly smile from you, and I decided to wait on asking my next question. But then your eyes were back on mine as the professor answered my question without being asked.
Mills, I just want to enjoy existing and keep doing so. Help my friends and keep growing.
Your eyes stretched wide as though held up by invisible hooks.
In some ways, I'm not that different from having a puppy.
It swung your eyes towards Ellis.
Or a tiger cub. I need to sleep and eat so I can keep growing. I've been asleep these past few months and now I need to eat again.
It licked your lips absently.
And I'm very hungry.
All right. Well, if you've made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one, which will be part 4. And that will be the conclusion, too. So have a wonderful night. And we love you. Bye-bye.